Hi everyone, welcome to a Stamping to Share video. My name is Kate Kalthoff and today I'm going to share a card that I've made with the Bunch of Blossom stamp set. This is the card and I think it is perfect for August late summer cards because it highlights crushed curry, which is a color that's just beautiful this time of year, at least here in Minnesota. So many flowers have that dark yellow color to them right now. And the sentiment is, today is the perfect day to be happy. But we're going to change this up and make this a get well card with the card that I'm going to show you. So for this card, everything was out of Bunch of Blossoms. Now you can purchase a coordinating blossom punch. However, this card just uses the stamp set. And then the background paper, I mean, that really makes this card shine. The background paper that we are using is our Color Theory 6x6 paper stack. And it's all the paint work done for you, all your background work done for you. So you have a look that's kind of like paint chips, and then you get sort of this crackle background. And there's multiple crackle backgrounds. This particular one with mostly white and then just a touch of color is perfect for stamping on. And so that's what we did on this card. And then there's also this lovely soft color up here going to a darker color. I mean, it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful paper pack. Another crackle that I like, and I used it on this card, is one that looks a little bit more vintage, like an old chest or something that's had its paint rubbed off. And you can see that it's quite a bit lighter on one side and then darker on the other. So let's go ahead and get started creating this card. We're going to set this aside. I am going to share with you that since I'm making this a get well card, I'm going to use the stamp set called Flourishing Phrases. This is a large stamp set. There's 2 cases involved, and there's one that's just perfect for, well, it could even be for sympathy. It says comfort and healing to you, but I'm going to use it as a get well card. And so this is the phrase that I'll be using on the card that we're making. I'm also going to flip these papers. So instead of using this side on both of these papers, I'm going to flip it and use the other side, a little bit more subdued color instead of this kind of riot of color that you see on this card. But otherwise, everything's going to stay the same. So we're going to use a piece of Night of Navy as our base. Night of Navy always looks so good with crushed curry, and so that is going to kind of accentuate that color. This is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. So I've already done the scoring, so I'm just going to fold along the score line. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need some panels to put on top of here. So the first panel that we're going to use is a piece of paper that's cut from that Color Theory stack. So you can see the cut marks I made, and I'm just going to explain how this works. These papers are 6 inches by 6 inches, and because this is a variegated design, I wanted to make sure that I shaved off about the same amount from the top and the bottom to bring the length to 5 1/4. So I took 3/8 of an inch from the top and 3/8 of an inch from a bottom. That's the first thing that I did. And then I cut it into a 4-inch width so that we have 4 by 5 1/4. This is going to be glued onto the front of our card. Then we had a strip like this left over, so what I did is I cut 1/2 inch off, and that's going to go on the inside panel. And then we just have a few little strips that we can use on another project. So we're just going to set those aside for the moment. And let's go ahead and work with these 2 pieces. So the 4 by 5 1/4, that actually has that kind of, you know, real vintage look on the back side, but as I mentioned, we're going to use the reverse side for the card that I'm doing for the video. So I'm just going to take some multi-purpose liquid glue, and we are just putting a little line of glue all the way around, and then we're going to make sure that we have the darker part of this paper towards the bottom. And then we're going to go ahead and do the inside panel. So the inside panel is a piece of Whisper White. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to take a little bit of multi-purpose liquid glue here on the left side. And again, keeping that ombre look with the darker part of it to the bottom. We'll just set this right on here, just to give a little bit of interest to the note that you write on the inside panel. And then I'll just adhere this with a little snail right along the top. And we can put this on the inside panel of our card. So we'll just make sure all 4 borders are nice and even, give that a press, and the inside panel is complete. Now we're going to set this part aside because we're going to work on the panel that needs some stamping. So that panel is a 2 3/4 inch by 4 inch piece of that Color Theory designer paper. Now this one's a little bit different, and so on this side we had the piece that I was stamping here, but on this side is what we're going to do our stamping on today. So again, 2 3/4 by 4 inches. I'm going to bring my Stampin' Mat into the picture because some of these stamps are photopolymer. However, the first thing we're going to do is stamp our sentiment on here. So we have comfort and healing to you. So I'm just going to set this right in here, and I've inked that with early espresso ink. And so there it is. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to stamp our flower stem. So I have that in Old Olive. So I'm just going to ink this up, and then we're just going to set this in, oh, I think about like this, because we want our little flower to be at an angle. And then we're going to take the Old Olive leaf, and we're going to stamp this about right here. Now this is some 2-step stamping that's involved, so I'm going to bring in another color and a secondary stamp that we can stamp on top of our leaf to just give that a little variegation. So we're going to ink that up in Always Artichoke, and then we'll just overstamp that on the leaf. That's called 2-step stamping, and it just gives your image a little more dimension. So we're going to do the same thing with the flower that we're stamping. We're going to take kind of that shadow background. We're going to ink that up with a Daffodil Delight. So I have that right here. We're inking that up, and we're going to set this right here on top of the stem. Give that a nice little press, and we have our flower. And then to add some dimension to that, we're going to ink up another stamp that's made to be stamped on top, and we're going to use Crushed Curry. And we'll just stamp this right here, right over the top of that flower. So there we go. So let me show you what that looks like. It's beautiful, isn't it? All right, so now we're going to set that aside, and we are going to go ahead and mount this onto some early espresso paper. So I have, what I want to do is I want to add a 3/16 inch border around this. And so to do that, we have to work with 1/16 of an inch. So as you remember, the original panel was 2 3/4 by 4 inches. So to add 3/16 of a border, our measurements are going to be 2 15/16, or a shade under 3 inches, by 4 3/16, or just a shade under 4 1/4. So again, that panel is an early espresso. Then what I did is I took some metallic foil doilies that look like this, and you can purchase those out of our annual catalog, and they did carry over, which I was really happy to see. And I just cut them down. You can see how I cut them down just so that I have a little edge showing on each side, and I just put that down with Scotch tape so that my panel looks like this from the front. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some multi-purpose liquid glue, and we're just going to glue this panel onto our early espresso panel. So we'll set this in here and wiggle this into place so all 4 borders are nice and even. And this gives us a nice skinny little border all the way around. So let me bring this up, and it's just gorgeous. So now all we have to do is add a bow and mount this onto the front of our card. Look at how gorgeous that is. Okay, so we're going to flip this over and add some dimensionals. All right, as you can see, I've gone ahead, I've added 5 dimensionals, so now we're just going to flip this over and set this so that it is dead center in the center of our card. So that looks pretty good. Press that down, and now to add the finishing touch, we're going to put a crushed curry bow. So Stampin' Up! Has some solid baker's twine. It comes on a spool like this. I've already gone ahead and made a bow here, and I'm just going to take my scissors and trim that off. And then we can go ahead and put this bow on. You can either use a drop of glue at the base of the flower, or if you're unsure of your gluing skills, another thing that you can do is take a paper piercing tool and a glue dot and just kind of, you know, grab one of those glue dots and just kind of roll it into a ball at the end of your paper piercing tool, and then just set that right where you want it. And when you get it right where you want it, just take your bow and set your bow down right on top of that glue dot. And there we go. We have a beautiful card. Now if you need to, you can trim up the edges a little bit so it's about the same on each side. And there we go. We have our card complete. So this is the card that I've made as a Get Well card. And then this is the card that I started with. So you'll have to be sure to let me know which background you liked better, this kind of more flirty one or the more formal one. I think they're both very elegant, and of course it's a nice easy card to put together. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you'd like to place a product order, be sure to visit my blog at www.stampingtoshare.com, and I have lots of links there for you to follow through to my online store and place your product order. Have a great day. Bye-bye.